Welcome to the Kindness Factor podcast, sharing life-changing personal stories of the transformational impact of deep kindness. Hosted by
Dr. Elia, the happiness doctor,
and Randy McNeely, the kindness giver. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to another episode of the Kindness Factor podcast. I'm Randy McNeely, your co-host, as well, along with my other wonderful co-host, Dr. Elia Gourgouris, the Happy Greek. And we are just thrilled today to be able to be joined by Philip Wilkerson. I'm going to share with you just a little bit. There's a lot I could share about Phil, but we can't begin to cover it all here. But I'm going to tell you just a few highlights here. Phil is an employee engagement consultant at George Mason University Career Services. In this role, he serves as a liaison between employees and the George Mason University community. Phil he's over a whole bunch of different industries, including media entertainment, journalism, public relations, a whole bunch of other things. We're going to put all this in the description for the podcast, so you'll be able to read up about Phil. And man, the guy has been named as the 40 under 40 list for George Mason University Black alumni. It's also the 40 under 40 for Northern Virginia area through Leadership Center for Excellence, and so much more. Phil, we want to let our audience just hear you speak so that they can get to know you that way. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. You're muted, Phil.
Yeah, no, I get that, and I do that so you don't have no background noise. But additionally, I'm always embarrassed about the bio because I just copy and paste that, and you try to put that out there. And I like to stay humble but be proud. That was one of my mottos that I have is like, be proud of your accomplishments, but try to remain humble. So I still get embarrassed when I have to submit bios. I was like, all right. You missed the most important part on that.
That's a great Phil. I was going to say the most important thing is she's married to his beautiful
wife.
That's
what I was about to say. Yeah.
I got you. And
thank you. Yeah.
And Miles.
And I say that at the end. I was like, honestly, I'll be totally transparent. I put that, and maybe I should put that at the top.
I think that should go to the
top.
That
is the most important thing in my life is that I married my wife. We've been married for 14 years now. We're high school sweethearts, and I have 2 boys that I'm extremely proud of. That's like, maybe I need to trim that and just make sure that's the highlighted part of my bio.
I had it down. I was going to say it because that's the biggest part for me too. Randy and I've been, how many years have you been married, Randy?
I've been married 20. I'm coming up on 29.
And I'm 33. So and the best part of life is really your family. Like, yes. Pardon, and all the other accolades are great, but there's a saying that Randy and I espouse to, that no success outside of the home will ever compensate for failure in the home.
Yes. What's funny is that one time I was grinding too much, and shout out to my old supervisor, Tracy Watson. And she was like, are you making sure that you're, checking in with your wife about all these late engagements? Because she's like, there's no point to be the man on campus if you're not the man at home. And that struck with me very well. So I always try to remember to still prioritize my family. I wrote a list out of all the important roles in my life, kind of like that exercise with the pebbles and the rocks. And the most top important role, non-negotiables, is father and husband and son-in-law, because I live with my mother-in-law. So I'm very, she's very close to me. So I want to make sure that I'm there for her. And then I have my job. My job is 3, it's not up there. So I really try to balance, my commitments, but make sure that I'm still active and taking my kids to their activities, being a soccer coach, which I don't know how I ended up that, Boy Scouts. But, in regard to my bio, that's probably the most important role in my life is my family and those roles.
Well, see, the beautiful thing about me not mentioning it is it just led to this amazing little conversation that we just had. And you got to just speak out about how wonderful your wife and family are, and your mother-in-law. So that's, I just did you a favor.
There you go. You give me the alley. You give me the alley-oop. There it is.
Well, I get an assist because I was about ready.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, team effort.
I had the names done and everything.
I just passed the ball.
Triangle offense. You know what I'm saying?
Phil Jackson, baby. That's it. That's it.
Well, Phil, we are thrilled to have you here. So thank you.
And I was going to say for our audience, obviously this was an unexpected start to the podcast. This shows the quality of the man that we're about to interview, Philip, with 1 L, by the way.
Yes.
It's very important to him that his family comes first. And it's not just for show. It's not just because it sounds good. You're supposed to say that. It's because I can feel it in your heart, Philip. And I applaud you. And all I can tell you, brother, is that it gets better over time. I know that's hard to believe. And I know that at some point your kids are going to get old. I know they're going to grow up and they're going to leave the nest. And then you and your wife can have a second, third, fourth, fifth honeymoon because we're in the middle of all that. And I'm telling you, so keep the faith. And
Yeah, I'm waiting. I was thinking about that too. But then the funny part is I told my wife that I won is because I got two boys, and I'm not talking, regardless of gender roles and how you feel, but I definitely got like two clones. So all my boys love the activities I love. So I get to watch football all Saturday and Sunday because my son loves football. And so it's like I won. Like I won the kid lottery, you know what I'm saying? Like
the kid lottery. That's
yeah, so I'm very happy.
Well,
so
good.
Philip, who's your kindness hero growing up? Like, let's dive right into it. Like,
Ooh, growing up.
I mean, I know there are a lot of people in your life that have extended kindness to you, and we've talked about
Wow,
this
that's a
before.
powerful question. Growing up, I mean, honestly, I was thinking about this. I do a workshop called "The Kind Leader is a Strong Leader," and in that workshop, I always talk about how growing up, I had this kind of feeling of less than because I had two remarkable leaders actually a lot of remarkable leaders as examples. So, for instance, my dad is Colonel Philip Wilkerson, right? So I saw this man, we
Wow.
just had our Veterans Day, that I saw this man command people and just take over the room and be larger than life. And I have pictures of me going to put his medals on when he did all his ceremonies. And it just was very daunting. And then on the other side, I had my grandfather, Dr. Charles James, father of seven. My mom, this is my mom's dad. And what was remarkable is that he went and got his doctor, he was an MD in the 1956 at McHenry.
Amazing.
So if you know how remarkable that is in the segregated South, getting his doctorate degree, getting his MD, not doctorate, MD, and then serving the community of Charlotte, North Carolina, everyone knew Dr. Charles James because if you know anything about history, Black patients had to go to Black doctors. And he would actually, because of that, sometimes he would take like non-payments, like food and stuff, because he wanted to serve the community, but they couldn't afford his services. And so I'm like, dang, I got those leaders. And I couldn't be both of them. But then as I gravitated and studied leadership, I realized I pulled pieces from them that they make them my heroes. Like, for instance, that service to the community, I'm pulling that from my grandfather, right? I'm getting that, right? And he was very funny, and I'm trying to think I'm funny and charismatic, and I'm pulling that in my own way. And then my dad has a lot of confidence, but what I've learned is that he practiced that confidence. Like, as I became an adult and we have more transparent conversations, I realized that the person I saw that was larger than life took work. Like, he had his insecurities, he had his downfalls, but he was very, like, no one could outwork my dad. No one. He is, because he's still alive, the epitome of hard work and integrity. So I would say, I mean, when I thought of that question, those are the first people that came to mind was my grandfather and my father, just real men in my life that set the tone for me. And then, like, honestly, I don't think I've ever lived up to it, but I feel like I became my own leader just pulling from those two people.
I mean, colonel is really high up in the military. This is not like a sergeant. A colonel is like the next thing after colonel is a general. Like, to give you an idea.
Yeah.
So, and what part of the military did he?
Army. He was Army 30 years. He was aviator, helicopter pilot, and then he moved on to other stuff, government work. And what I've learned, this is even more remarkable about family first, is that I had a transparent conversation. Why did you ever never become a general? Well, when I was in high school, my dad, they gave him priority reassignment. And it was like, if you want to get to the next level, you need to either move to Germany or Hawaii. And he was like, but my son and my family's here. So in hindsight, he actually chose his family over that one star.
Wow.
He has no regrets. He's like, I have no regrets for that. I'm happy I did that. So that's that part of balance where I've learned, like, be hardworking, but also understand that family comes first too. Like,
I mean, no better example than him instilling that family comes first than actually foregoing him the potential of becoming a general in the U.S. Army by staying closer to home and being a role model for you. Wow. I mean,
And also, I mean,
what an incredible man.
And he was also thoughtful, like in a sense, like I didn't want to rip him apart from high school. Northern Virginia is a great place for opportunities. These are a great place to raise kids. This is my last assignment. So I knew it was probably a really tough decision, but it was multiple layered. And it wasn't just like, oh man, I'm missing one star. It's like, he was also thinking like, this is a great place to settle down and put roots. And so I've been very fortunate to not have the most traditional military experience where I've been able to stay put since middle school here in Northern Virginia.
That's very unusual. You're right. That's very unusual.
Yeah.
So,
oh, that's
wow.
fantastic. Well, you know, what a blessing to be able to have those two pillars in your life, because you can, you know, now as you're working to pay it forward, and we're going to talk a little bit about how you're doing that in just a minute, but as you're working to pay it forward, when you come to various situations, you have their examples. You can sit and think, okay, what would dad do? Or what would grandpa do? How would I handle that? And you can use that experience that you've had with them to be able to help you in your efforts to lift and bless other people. And that's a fantastic thing to have, to be able to refer back and think about lessons learned from them. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. So here's the next question. How did their kindness to you translate into you becoming the kindness master you are at George Mason University? Tell us a little about the program there and what you're doing.
Yeah, excellent. So I work at George Mason University. Very fortunate. I'm also an alum of George Mason. And so being able to work at an institution that already had the separate identity of pride, it stills me. I went to James Madison undergrad and got my master's at Mason, and then worked and hired in various spaces and came back. And right before COVID, I started getting involved with the Center for the Advancement of Wellbeing in other spaces. Shout out to my mentor, Lewis Forrest, who's the assistant dean of university life here, that kind of the student affairs. And so we had these events like Spring into Wellbeing, things that were, the Center for the Advancement of Wellbeing is the actual office here, but they need support. So people across, faculty members, anyone can be a participant. And so I was involved with that pre-COVID. And then COVID hit, and we realized there's an exacerbation of loneliness and sadness. So they wanted to dive into one pillar of well-being, which was kindness. And so we developed, out of the Center for the Advancement of Wellbeing, the Mason Chooses Kindness Initiative, which is a cross-campus program where we have different pockets. And it's not just for faculty and staff, you know, it's for students, it's for alumni, it's for anyone affiliated with the Mason community. And then they have just programs around it. We have like what we call a steering committee of like over 30 people that join at different various spaces. And then we have the executive leadership team, which I'm on with my mentor, Lewis Forrest. And then we divided it into pockets, right? So one of the programs under the Mason Chooses Kindness is the Kindness Ambassador Program, where people will nominate on an annual basis people as kindness ambassadors, and then we host a reception for them. That's actually today. I know this might be posted later, but today's World Kindness Day.
It is indeed.
So we'll have World Kindness Day and welcome the new recipients and their faculty, staff alike, and they get a little certificate that people nominate them for their kindness, and then they're added to a listserv for programs. And then one of the programs that I'm the lead of is called Pats for Patriots, which is a continuous program throughout the year where you would submit small acts of kindness of people around you, and then they get like an e-card called a pat on the back, Pats for Patriots.
I love that.
Nice.
And so that's just something to think about. Like it came out of COVID, this Mason Chooses Kindness, and it's just reiterated and got bigger and bigger every year.
When a wallet was returned just moments after it was lost, a purpose was found. This one act of kindness inspired the formation of the nonprofit Kindness Worldwide to create a culture of kindness in communities throughout the world. Kindness Week Worldwide mobilized the entire community in York, Pennsylvania, featuring initiatives and playbook programs including blood drives, kindness cards, K-12 and college students embracing kindness, and an innovative means of community policing, kindness citations. If something so magical can happen in York, Pennsylvania, the same and other inspirations can happen anywhere and everywhere. Our Screen Scenes initiative featuring the Kindness Factor will showcase these many stories of kindness. Let's include your community among them. Kindness is the heartbeat of the world. Together, with your support, we can make all its hearts beat as one.
Oh, it's like 4 years.
You know, what's so beautiful about what you said is like Randy and I and the Kindness Factor were partners with Kindness Worldwide. And one of the things that they do is kindness citations. So the sheriff or the chief of police in different cities and towns and municipalities goes out and issues citations. They come on your door, like knock, and you're like, well, am I getting arrested? No, actually, I'm here to write you a citation. Well, what did I do? Well, you were nominated. It was kind of Pass for Patriots, the same thing. And how transformative that is in a person's life to be acknowledged for the kindness and the service that they provide to their community. So there's a lot of alignment. We need to connect Philip to Kevin.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. It's like the law of compound interest.
Exactly.
These little small drops of these Pats for Patriots that we started. I have the data. I'm a nerd. It's 4 years.
And introducing the Tristica too.
Yeah, it's the 4 years. And in 4 years, the first year, 2021, I believe, was the first year. We only had like 23 for the whole year.
Yeah.
The next year was like 500. The second year, we're already at 1,000 for this year.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
It's growing and seeing how more people do it. And then I have the data. Usually there's people that send so much. It kind of shows like giving kindness doesn't always yield back, but doesn't matter to people. So there's people that are like, I call them kindness champions, that they're the ones that have submitted so many Pats. We give them a certificate just for doing that in the calendar year. Every year we say, who's the person that sent out the most? Minus me, because I send out a lot of these because I'm trying to get my program running, but we take myself out of it. And we have kindness champions and recipients who received the most in the calendar year. And so it's taken on a life of its own. But like it's a law of it took time. It's built. It's building momentum. It's building.
We have more introductions to make to you. Believe me, after today.
Yeah.
And open up doors for you too, and for more collaboration. That compound interest that you talked about is spot on. That's awesome.
Yeah, and right? Altruism, give and you feel better. Like people feel good.
Well, you do exactly. And the thing is like, okay, every time you talked about how the fact that it's growing is when people start recognizing, oh, hey, this Pat for Patriots program, that's pretty cool. I like giving somebody a pat on the back or getting a pat on the back. Mm-hmm. And then they tell somebody else about it. And that's what makes it grow. It grows organically because people, who doesn't like to feel good? Who doesn't like to have a positive feeling about themselves or help somebody else feel positive about themselves? And the beautiful thing is that kindness multiplies only when we give it away. So every time we're giving it away, it's multiplying. And your program is a perfect example of that.
Kindness begets kindness, right?
Yep. Kindness begets kindness. It's just, you can't help. I know personally, and we've all experienced this, you can't help when somebody's kind to you, wanting to turn around and give kindness away to somebody else. It's just it's almost a natural response.
And I'm going to quote my good friend Randy here, who says that kindness is love in action.
Yes,
that's one of the most beautiful statements if you think about it, because kindness is an active thing. It's not a passive thing.
No. But I thought about this too. It came out of a low place. Kindness is also a really great tool for resilience.
Oh yeah.
But it's not a great tool just for the recipient, but it's also a great tool for the person giving it. Like I was thinking about it, like even the throws, like, I live with my mother-in-law very transparently. And because we moved in with my father-in-law who not recently, 2 years ago passed away, but we moved in together before he passed away. So I took care of my father-in-law before he passed. And I could think about like, even in like the lowest moment of that time, like being kind to others, felt like I had or doing this Pass for Patriot program was something that, not say distract me, but something to say like, I'm still meaning something to someone, right? Or helping my father-in-law when he was, terminally ill, helping him. And I wasn't thinking of being kind. I was just doing service. but it gave me purpose every day. Like I remember like he would do like hold my hand when he needed help to walk. And that like I don't know. I describe that as one of the weirdest feelings of like seeing someone you love hurt so much, but at the same time, I felt good about helping. Like I didn't feel helpless. I felt like I was at least doing something to help him. And he would always do stuff like when I would help him out the wheelchair or whatever, he'd always give me an extra squeeze with a hug. And it was like his way of saying like, thank you for like doing it. And everyone, you know, I have a word thing, you know, people made a Wordle and we wrote one for him and I still have it in my office. And the biggest word on there was kindness because he was a kind person. And then he was like, why is kind? I thought people would say I was smart. I ain't gonna lie. I kind of wrote a couple times kind, but people loved him though. He was a Jewish man and he was the word Mensch means just straight up guy. That was a big word. That was a big word on there too, Mensch. And so those things like that, even low points, that's something that helps me like resilience wise is like, if I could be helpful to someone else or be kind to someone else, it's okay. Like I'm being okay. You know what I'm saying? It's my grounding tool, basically.
Love that. You know, it creates buoyancy.
Yes.
That's exactly what it does. It creates buoyancy in our lives. When we give kindness away, it's what helps us to stay afloat.
Yeah, for sure.
To keep.
So I would tell people, you know, sometimes the most miserable people, it's like misery loves company. I was like, I don't know, man. I really tell someone, even if you're in the throes of resilience, right? And like I say, I don't prescribe to toxic positivity, right? Like understand that life is bad and all that stuff, but like you can still give and bless others, and that will help you. I promise that will help you with your mental health. You know, if you think about the power of AA, right? You know, the Alcoholics Anonymous is because even as someone at my low as an alcoholic, I can help someone else as an alcoholic in group and, you know, be a sponsor to someone else, right? Usually the sponsor is someone that's struggling with addiction themselves because they know that even with my addiction, I can help someone else. You know, that gives them purpose. That makes them feel good to get out of that addiction. So I would say that too. Like if you're really going through a tough time, don't double down on misery. Try to think of ways to help others.
And then something magical happens because your mood and the chemicals in your brain that get released when we're doing something good for somebody else.
Yes.
Elevate us as well. Philip, man, time flies by. It's remarkable. We need your 3 pearls of wisdom, your 3 nuggets, or maybe 3 philosophies that you have about a good and happy life. What would you say are your top 3? If you were talking to your kids, imagine this. Now you're sitting down with your kids a little bit older. What would you say to your kids about if you want to live a good life and a happy life and a kind life, boom, boom, boom. What would you say to them? What's number 1?
One, when you die, the only thing that's going to be carried on is your name. And my dad told me that. So meaning, you know, the way you treat other people, that lives beyond your materials. And no one's going to care how much money I have or what car I drove. They're going to matter how I felt. But then also thinking about that name recognition, it goes beyond me, that it helps give opportunities to others. So like they say, hey, you Philip Wilkerson's boy, or you're Dr. Chaim's, you know, grandson. That carries on. So I would tell people, don't focus on material things. Focus on living a legacy of helping others because that carries on. Another one, number 2, would be, I think kind of what came out of here, you know, find something, chase service and not money. That's where you're going to find, you know, your calling, what you feel good about. And then it comes with money sometimes because you get money out of it. But like most times someone wants to be a doctor. If you're being a doctor because you want to help heal people, then the money will come. I work in education. I want to help educate people. So I'm chasing service. I'm not chasing titles or prestige. So that's number 2. And then number 3, express gratitude to yourself, but also to others. Like don't leave it on the table. Don't let people wonder if they helped you. Tell them, you know, life's too short to have people wondering. So I'm very, 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 maybe I'm extra, but I'll tell people how I feel. I give flowers while they're alive because I never know, right? My father-in-law, I knew I can know without a shadow of a doubt he loved me. He told me like to my face. So there's no doubts there. So I try to live that life too. Like even when I'm mad, I tell my boys I love them every day, or most try to every day. Even when we're mad, I think we do at least have a hug or some kind of cuddle or wrestling or some kind of activity together. Because I know they're going to remember that more than like anything else. They're just going to say, my dad loved me. And my wife too. You try to like, was that old age at try not to go to bed mad at each other kind of thing. I mean, we still might be mad, but not that mad. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, she knows we love each other. I get on her nerves, but whatever. She's stuck with me.
You're human. You get on your wife's nerves. Wow. I'm glad to know I'm not the only
Well,
one.
that's never happened to me. Never. 33. Not one time. I don't remember one.
She's stuck with me. She's stuck. I was like, man, I got her. I've been with my wife like since 14, but I've since for 14 years. Married, but I've been with her since I was 18. So I apologize. I was like, I got you before you saw the world. You stuck with me. Your whole adult life was with me. like my bad. My bad. We grew up together. So
that's all right.
Yes.
Well, Phil, we sure appreciate you joining.
What a pleasure. Like really, your energy, your countenance, your passion, and your love for your family. I'm so glad that the discussion went in the family route and the legacy from your grandfather on your mom's side to your dad, the colonel and his service, and how they shaped your life and how you're passing it on forward with Maggie and Bennett and Miles and your family and George Mason University. There's going to be more of us. We're going to be more connected. This is not just a one-off, like it's a podcast interview and good luck with your life.
But you're gonna be on. But you also, like I said, you're gonna be on my podcast, Positive Filter, as well. No, that's awesome.
We're on it.
I definitely want to elevate. I definitely want to elevate what you're doing too.
Thank you.
My platform, and like I said, kindness begets kindness, and these are messages that need to be. I think more than ever. I mean, minus what's going
Philip,
on.
how can our folks follow you and get in touch with you, and what's the best way?
I think the best two ways. One is Positive Filter on all the platforms. The filter spelled with a PH, and then also LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Philip Wilkerson.
We'll put that. Make sure we put that in the description. And we just want to say again, thank you so much, Phil, for joining us today. And we want to say thank you to our audience. You could be doing anything right now. You could be going and doing something else. You don't need to be listening to this. So we really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this. And I want to just invite you, like we do every week, take the time, just a few minutes, and sit and think, what did I learn from today's podcast? How is it applicable to me? And what am I going to do about it? Take that time, and I can promise you, you'll come away with some good things that'll make your life and your day and your life better. Until next time, remember, with kindness,
everybody wins.
wins.